how we're going to handle this morning is I'm going to make a few introductions, and then I'm going to read for you a story of the Kolomiiets family and what they've been through. And then after that, I'm going to sit down, and then the congregation will have an opportunity for questions and comments, or to hear more from the family. So that's what our time today is going to look like. So for those of you who've not met the Kolomiiets family, this is Artem. This is Tatiana. Recently named People's Choice Award at the Keep Your Fork. So we are in the presence of greatness. This is Dima. Our translator for today is Vladimir Titarenko, who's helping us. Vladimir also comes from Ukraine, and he was kind enough the evening that the Kolomiiets family landed in Cedar Rapids. Vladimir and his wife, pardon me, Olga, met them at the airport with Mark Priest and Sarah Iverson-Murphy, and translated when they arrived, and also helped them get settled in our apartment. So we're so grateful for Vladimir's friendship and help here today. So those are our introductions. Artem did take some time to write their story. I'm going to read that for you. It's been translated into English. I have like 25 copies available. I don't want you to have them now. I'd rather have you listen. But if you want to take them home with you afterwards, you can do that. Good? Ready? Many things can change your life, and it will never again be what it was before, but only you can decide whether your life will get better or worse. Whatever happens in your life, you must always remember that God is always there and he is ready to help. You just need to take the first step. The step of repentance for our family was the best one in our lives. It changed everything. We were all born and raised in an atheistic state where the word God was banned. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, evangelists from America began to come to Ukraine. They preached in the streets by putting up big tents. At one of these meetings, Mother heard the word of God, and God touched her heart. Her life and ours have changed. We have been in the Church of Good Changes since its inception, but at first it was called the Heart of David. Then my injury changed the life of our family forever, and my life was divided into before and after. In 2003, I unsuccessfully dived into the water at sea and broke my spine. Many operations and huge bills followed. In general, this period was not the easiest for our family. I had a very serious injury. All the doctors had already buried me, but my mother believed and asked God for a miracle. Our family paid huge bills for my treatment. My mother was torn between me and my grandmother, who was also in serious condition with terminal cancer. My father died in 2004 from heart problems. Dima had to work almost all of the time to pay all the bills for my treatment and rehab. During that time, he also continued to study in absentia at the university. It has been a tough time for all of us, but we made it through. We've always had a close-knit family, and the difficulties that we had to go through united us even more. The trauma changed forever my life, my plans, and my dreams. I could never have imagined that I would serve as pastor in the church. On Sundays, we have a big service in our church where all the parishioners of our church gather. And on Wednesday evenings, we gathered 10 to 12 people who lived next to each other in our house where I was a pastor. I also worked as secretary in the church. In 2020, I graduated from seminary with a bachelor's degree in theology and qualified as a bachelor of practical ministry, a teacher of Christian ethics. This year, I had planned to enter the University of the School of Psychology and Pedagogy. I love learning new things. If the teacher stops learning, he stops being a teacher. It's not easy for me to write about myself, so I asked a friend to write a couple of sentences about me. This is in quotes. Counseling is one of the most difficult jobs in the world. Before his injury, Artem did not know how many thousands of conversations he would have with desperate people who, even having much more than he had, did not perceive their life as the greatest gift from God. Only God knows how many people did not fall into the noose of suicide or despair because he sent them his angel in the form of Artem. Talking to him on the phone, you will never guess that this guy has been in a wheelchair for more than 18 years. His optimism flattens most of the problems that we cry about as people without such physical limitations. End quote. I just really like to see God work in someone's life to see how burnt out hearts light up and everyday lives are transformed. "109 days is not very much in peacetime, but it is in war. In war, one day is a whole life, which is difficult to tell in just one sitting. After all, every day that you live under the explosions of aircraft, tank fire, and shelling is very valuable, since you don't know whether it's your last day or not. As soon as we found out that the war had begun, we wanted to leave, but it doesn't always work out the way that you want. I think many people understand what I'm talking about. At 5:00 a.m., a call on the internet woke me up. It was my friend Roman from America. He has the same injury as me, and he understands my situation perfectly. Besides, he was born and raised in Ukraine, but now he lives in Washington State. I will never forget this call. Before picking up the phone, I prayed briefly, saying, God, if everything is fine with him, he never would have called me so early. Thank God everything was fine with him, but not for us. He told us that a full-scale war had come to Ukraine. We have been at war since 2014. Luhansk and Donetsk regions were occupied by the Russians. Mariupol is a city in the Donetsk region, in the city of Donetsk, which was captured by the Russians. This is only 74 miles from us. The war was then in our neighborhood. Since 2014, our city and outskirts have always been under fire from the Russian army. Since then, we have always had a strategic stock of food, a special container for water, a full tank of fuel in the car, and all of our documents ready to go. We believed and dreamed that all of this would never be useful to us, and that we would never see the war that we know about now. But as it turned out, it couldn't be stopped. Like I said, I will never forget that conversation with Roman. I remember how he told me, Artem, you are a cool guy, but perhaps this is my last conversation with you. Now we will meet in paradise. To which I jokingly answered, we will see you again in America. In all the most difficult situations, I always try to see something good and bright. I remember the situation in intensive care when I woke up from anesthesia and could not immediately understand that the apparatus was breathing for me. When I realized this, I remembered an episode from The Simpsons. And only the tube in my mouth could keep me from laughing. Appreciate every day in your life, whatever it may be, because your life is a gift from God, is one of my favorite sayings. As soon as I heard that a war had broken out in Ukraine, I called everyone I could, everyone I knew, to tell them to leave for safe territory as soon as possible. Almost everyone I spoke to took it lightly. They thought that the war would not be the way that we know now. War takes the veil of innocence from our eyes. I wish I had been able to leave so as not to see all the hell that I had to see. It's very painful to realize that many people I knew, instead of saving someone's life and taking them out of the city, loaded their cars with things that have no value compared to human life. We were always ready to leave, but did everything to prepare in case we had to stay. We did not sit idly by. We understood that the worst could happen. I read a lot about the war and understood that light and gas, water, cell communications, all of this could disappear at any moment. So the first thing we started to do was collect water in a spare container. All of our mobile phones were always on the charger and charged to 100% in case of a power outage. We started equipping the bathroom as a bomb shelter. That was the safest place in our apartment because it was surrounded by load-bearing walls. From the bath, we took out mirrors and shelves, put chairs there, brought warm clothes, water, food, and a bag with our documents. We also spread food and water in different rooms because in the event of shelling and collapse of one of the rooms, we would not be left without water and food. As it turned out, our supply of water and food saved more than one life. Many who left in search of water and food never returned. Our area was one of the first to be shelled. It was very dangerous to leave the basement or the bomb shelter or the apartment because there were fierce battles on the street, and our supply of water became very precious. So that there were be enough, we drank only a half a glass of water a day. From the lack of water and the extreme cold, my lips cracked. All I wanted at that time was to drink as much water as I wanted. Later, we drank rainwater and water from the river. We all enjoyed the rain and the snow. I'll never forget the most difficult conversation with my mom. When our district was shelled with incendiary shells, when entire neighborhoods burned out, I realized that if one of these shells hit our house, we would not be able to get out together. I asked her not to even try to pull me out and to leave on her own, that she would not have enough time or strength to do this, and that she would not be able to save both me and herself. I knew that she would never do this. There are no words to describe what was happening in my soul at that time. We had a large apartment in the city, in the center of Mariupol, which was completely refurbished by us to suit my needs. We renovated the apartment because the house was built in the Soviet Union and it was absolutely not designed for people with disabilities. My comfortable apartment before the war turned into a trap from which I could not escape. With each bombing, people went down to the basement, to the shelter, but did not have such an opportunity. We did not have such an opportunity because of the non-working elevator. We were just in our apartment. Near our house, there were 2 schools which the Ukrainian military used. One as a hospital for the wounded, the other as ammunition depot. Both schools became targets for airstrikes. But thank God, Russian soldiers are not such good shots. And the airstrikes that were inflicted on the schools did not hit the target. One of these bombs hit the second entrance of our house, though, and simply by the grace of God, it did not explode. If that had happened, you probably never would have heard from us. Also, our house was fired upon by Russian tanks, as a result of which it was badly damaged. Most of the windows were broken, and March this year turned out to be extremely cold in Mariupol. The temperature in the apartment was 32 degrees Fahrenheit. We thought that if not shells, then the cold would definitely kill us. In the apartment, we collected all of our blankets. I was covered with more than 10 blankets. It was not easy to breathe under the weight of the blankets. Not having time to warm up, I had to roll over so as not to put pressure on the bed sores on my body. During this time, my bed and blanket that I covered with cooled down and constantly felt cold. God will send his angels was my answer to the most difficult life situations in Mariupol. All these 109 days in the war, our only desire was to travel as far as possible from this horror and meet Dima as soon as possible. The war had divided us. I was in Mariupol with my mother, while my brother worked in Europe for a trucking company. All our acquaintances, friends, and even distant relatives promising to help did not keep their word. Some turned away, some ignored, and some simply did not succeed, even with their desire to help us, since our area was at the very epicenter of hostilities in Mariupol. Many people leaving the city did not have the opportunity to take their relatives, their friends, and acquaintances, as our part of the city was under constant shelling. Mom was very desperate and could not even imagine who could help us leave the ruined city because it would not be easy to travel with me. At that time, we had no friends left in the city or anyone we knew that would help us. I said, God has never left us, and he will not leave us now, and he will send his angels to help us. She said, Artem, what kind of angels are you talking about? I replied, Mom, just remember, God has never left us, and even if friends and acquaintances turn away, he will send his angels to those people whom we never know, and they will help us. In the end, Mariupol was completely destroyed and occupied by the Russian army. All infrastructure in the city is gone. Only counting official data, about 100,000 civilians died, and 80% of the city was destroyed. It became impossible to live in what had once been our beloved city. After a while, the Russians reconnected phone service, which worked only intermittently, but we were able to phone Dima. Together, we looked for opportunities to leave the city. Calling us from Europe was very expensive for him, and the connection was terrible due to the fact that all of it was tapped by the Russian special services. We called each other every day and discussed the plan for our evacuation from occupied Mariupol to Zaporizhia. The territory discussed the territory controlled by Ukrainian troops, the distance was 180 miles. It took Mom and me a week to travel that 180 miles. A war-torn road, many checkpoints, at one of which they took me for a wounded soldier of Azov and wanted to shoot me. It's good that we still have documents confirming my injury. Well, this is all nothing compared to the fact that we met with Dima and we got out of this hell. We went to Finland first because our friends of our church lived there, but the climate did not suit me there. It is a very cold country. We are very grateful to God. We are here in a safe place, surrounded by angels. No words are enough to express our gratitude to God and you for everything that has happened to us, for all of the miracles in our lives, and for your great love. Oh, sure. Okay.
So people can hear them online.
Just remember, I do have some of these available for you, and we can always print more too. Vladimir is going to assist us with translation now, and so if you have questions for the family or things that maybe you'd like to know more about, I will come to you with microphone. I'm not a quick runner, so be patient. Thanks, Roma. Would anyone like to begin?
What was the process of getting out of Finland to get here? And how is all of that travel arranged and papers?
Какой был процесс того, чтобы выехать с Финляндии и какие документы нужны были? С Финляндии.
Вообще не нужно было. Это было настолько документы сделали, все документы, это сделали спонсоры. Наши документы, это наш паспорт.
So the process was quite simple. The only document that we had to have was our passports. Everything else was done here on this side with my sponsors.
Gave as a balloon presentation.
Okay.
If you can't guess, Dave made the balloon arch.
So it was much more difficult to get out of Ukraine, and there was a bus organized by the church for the transport, for our attempted transport, and it took quite a while to get to Poland. But once they crossed the Poland border, then Dima met them there and drove the bus.
So welcome, and now that you're here, what is it that we can help to get you where you want to go?
Добро пожаловать. Раз вы уже здесь, что мы можем сделать, чтобы помочь вам достичь ваших целей?
Вы так много делаете для нас, большое спасибо вам за это. Вы просто для нас полезны.
You're doing so much for us already, and thank you very much for that, and thank you for being our angels.
Thank you.
Dima's getting, well, they're all studying English, and so once Dima has English, then he hopes to get his driver's license, and then he was a commercial truck driver in Europe, and so once the language is being changed, I told him that every truck I see on the interstate says they're hiring, so he'll be able to get a job.
So that's interesting because I have some friends in Cedar Rapids, and the minute that they heard that the person who came here was a truck driver, they said, "We got a job." There's a local chapter somewhere in the Rapids that doesn't require over-the-road driving, but it's a day-to-day, day in and out, just to launch trailers and move them between loading docks. So he doesn't have to, he won't even have to leave the state, just lives in the Rapids.
Yeah, that's great.
Is Tatiana, she was employed as a chef at a school and also in a cafe. Is she hoping in some time to get a job in her vocation?
Раз вы были шеф-поваром в школе, раз собираетесь ли вы снова продолжить свою профессию?
Я хочу быть полезной здесь, не только в Америке, и хочу полезной быть и в церкви, быть, как говорится, и за Артема.
Она
Хочу
оставила
быть,
свою работу, чтобы там она просто не может.
но хочу быть полезной везде.
So I left my job to take care of my son, but I would like to be useful here. I would like to be useful for this community and not only for this community.
Хочу быть.
Artem, you were pursuing an advanced degree in studies. Are you hoping to keep studying?
Ты дальше шел учиться на высшее образование. Ты собираешься дальше продолжить свое образование здесь?
Yes. So this year, as it was mentioned in the paper, that I was going to start studying to be the educator and psychologist. So the war unfortunately interrupted these plans. So now I will continue to pursue this degree online.
Yeah, we're excited about your continuing degree. I really appreciated your writing and your theology. I encourage you to continue to do that. Have you written before? I think that there's publication on the horizon. Are you willing to do that?
Мне понравилось то, как мы написали эту статью, и так как вы раньше занимались теологией, вы собираетесь на этом какие-нибудь публикации? Планируем.
Well, this time I cannot promise it, but I will definitely plan on it.
Others?
What's our favorite nerve?
What do you like to eat?
Do
you like American food?
Американская еда вам больше всего нравится?
I like chips in it.
So far, we haven't had any food that we didn't like. Apart from sweet potatoes.
Okay. Vladimir, I need you to translate this for me, please. So we have a sweet potato back going right now because I brought them produce a few weeks ago for the first time, and they didn't know what the sweet potato was. So we explained it, and I came back the next time with more, and Diva goes, no. Sweet potato. And I said, why? And he said, because they're sweet. And I asked how they had made them, and he said that they had put them in like a stew or a soup or something like that. And he said, very, very bad, very bad. I said, no, try it a different way. Roast them in the oven, cut them in half, mash, with butter and brown sugar. Have they done it? Vladimir asked. I even bought the brown sugar and got it just for and then I said, if they don't like it after that, then I'll leave it. Other questions? They have a tremendous sense of humor, in case you haven't figured that out.
Well, you can't really survive without it. If you don't have any other questions, I would like to add a few words from myself. So I was born and raised in Ukraine, moved here to school and just stayed here. So eventually brought my family, so my wife and kids living here in North Liberty now. However, my wife's family is still in Ukraine. Her brother is in active military somewhere in the Donetsk area right now. He's a trained military specialist. He's artillery. He has artillery specialty. So they've been moved from one front line to another front line. He has been injured. Didn't even tell his family that he was injured. We had to find out from the friends. And the reason I'm saying that is my wife's sister grabbed her kids, left here. We are hosting them right now, and they left as soon as they were able to. They first moved to Poland, and from Poland we were able to move them here. My wife's mother refuses to leave. She's still there. She's refusing to leave because her son is there. And she hasn't seen him since February. So last time we actually seen him when we went to visit at the beginning of February. So I was there with my wife to visit the family. We left a week before the war broke out. So she refuses to leave. She says that she will never leave as long as he's there and he's fighting. So she's putting her retirement pension for payment. She's giving it away to help other soldiers. So she's supporting the women who's cooking and packing the food to ship to the front line, and doing everything she can. And now she's in late 60s, so you can imagine the resilience of those people. But one more thing that nobody really talks about on the news or anywhere else is the families and loved ones who are outside of the country. Those women and children who are separated from their husbands and fathers, who sit in overseas, who wants to go back and cannot. For those who left way before the war and living here, settled in other countries, my wife hadn't had a good night's sleep since the war broke out. Her brother is 16 years younger than she is, so she literally raised him along with our daughter, who was 2 years younger than her uncle. So she was the mom to both of them, and she couldn't find, as I mentioned, a good night's sleep for all these months. And every night when I'm coming home and I'm saying that, hey, let's just settle down, have a dinner, unwind for the day, she said, I can't do this. So the stress levels for everybody else is quite a lot. And what we see here, the support that we receive from our friends is tremendous. And when I heard that Kolomiiets family is coming here, there was no question of whether I want to help or I want to participate or not. That was, of course. So I will go there. I will help as much as we can. And I'm the only provider in the family as well. So I did take a second job to be able to support my now expanded family of 7. And my kids are now almost adult. My youngest one is 14 years old. So having a 6-year-old and 2-year-old back in the house is quite a bit. But I'm happy that we're able to help. And I'm happy that I'm here and I have this opportunity. And I'm happy that my wife can go to a farmer's market, sell the stuff that she makes with her hands. And she's sending all the funds there to her friends who are making and packing food to be able to send the food to soldiers on the front lines. So as a community, it's very important as a community to understand that not only those people who were able to escape that were affected, but everybody else has been affected as well. And the worst part is we still don't know why. And that's the question that nobody can really answer.
Vladimir translates that as a small world through social media. That when I first met him, we found out that his son is in my son's marching band. He marched with Alexa, right? Yeah. So that was a funny small world, right? Are there other questions from the congregation? Or something that you'd like to hear more about? Mm-hmm. What is the next step of something that we can, Sarah, what to do to help? Yeah, what would be an effective next step for helping Ukraine? Would it be bringing another family or a financial cause? Or
Что было бы более эффективным способом помочь Украине, проспонсировать еще одну семью.
So this is something that the community need to decide. What would you see as a more rewarding experience?
Слава Богу, на сегодняшний момент Америка, Европа
So we're lucky to see that Ukraine is getting support from Europe, Ukraine is getting support from America. That's very important for the entire country.
Thunder, could you ask them if their congregation continues to meet?
Но ваша команда собирается дальше. Какой ваша церковь еще существует?
Наша стратегия, но многие служат и на фронтлайн. Наш пастор сейчас с командой Капеллана там подвозит постоянно солдатам военжилеты, помощь, пищу и тем людям, которые сейчас находятся на границе, там тоже постоянно все подвозят пищу.
So the church still exists, but now they don't meet as a congregation. Instead, a lot of them are serving on the front lines. So the pastor right now with a group of other pastors actually working some of the borders. So some are delivering food packages to the front lines.
И получается, те, кто нам помогали, это братья из нашей церкви, тоже организовали, несколько купили бусов и помогали выезжать из этих стран, из этих территорий оккупированных.
So people who helped us to escape the occupied territories, they were our brothers from our church who managed to board several buses, transition us from one bus to another to get us out of the occupied territories.
So, in the congregation, so in order for us to speak with the family, most of us are using the Say Hi app, and there's been some confusion among the congregation why Tatiana speaks Russian primarily and the brothers speak Ukrainian primarily. Can you explain that? It's very interesting.
Вопросы, почему вы разговариваете по-русски и по-украински, и почему Татьяна разговаривает по-русски и по-украински?
Наш регион – это Донецкая область. И практически большая часть процентов населения у нас в регионе разговаривает на русском языке. Мы в школе учили украинский, мы украинский хорошо знаем, понимаем, можем на нем говорить. А мама в школе не учила украинский. Она приехала, на тот момент украинский язык в школах не преподавали. И ей проще, она сама говорит, но она понимает украинский, но сказать, может сказать плохо.
So I'd say before getting to the explanation, I need to give you a little bit of a history lesson. So during the Soviet Union, there was a lot of people migration. So all of those 13 republics that were joined together, and there was an infrastructure established. So the goods from one country were moved to be processed in another country, and that was in part why Soviet Union exists for such a long time. So that the infrastructure held together. So the Eastern Ukraine, especially like Donetsk, Lugansk region, they were industrial giants. And they were populated throughout the time of the Soviet Union. They were populated by Russian engineers. So a lot of people who considered themselves Ukrainians who were there for two, 3 generations, they were originally Russian engineers who were sent there. So in Donetsk and Lugansk region, Russian as a language is a primary language. It's about 7% of people who speak it. So that's one of the reasons why Tatiana speaks primarily Russian. She understands Ukrainian, but she never studied it as a language. Now, her sons studied Ukrainian at school, and they know Ukrainian, they speak it as their language. So in comparison, I'm from a northwest Ukraine. So we studied Russian at school as a second language. So I speak it as well, just fine, but my native is Ukrainian, my regular Russian is my second native language. So that what makes no sense that Putin said that he came to Ukraine to protect Russians, so people who speak Russian. And he came to Donetsk and Lugansk, he's killing people whose primary language is Russian. So that's quite a strange trend.
So, do you have a question?
So I know you don't have a fortune telling capability and you can't see into the future. But if you look to your future 5 or 10 years from now, would you like to see yourself back in your own country, or do you think that the United States is now your home?
если вы могли предсказывать будущее, и вы себя через 5 лет обратно в Украине, или вы считаете, что штат сейчас становится вашим самым важным?
Я думаю, что штат просто тяжело будет через сколько лет что-то начинать заново, опять новое.
At this time, I believe the States will become our new homeland because it was quite a difficult transition to get here. And if you wait for 5-10 years, you will have to start from scratch if you go back.
Мы столько прожили у себя дома, жили для себя, для Артема, для большинства дома. И просто это все рухнуло. Если Бог все полностью здесь, то не оставалось, что ждать.
It took quite a lot of effort to build a home there, especially considering that a lot of investment was made to support our Tom's needs. And it was very painful to see how it was, everything was crumbled. So once we got here, I believe we will try to make the same home here.
Я хочу сказать, 10 раз приспособили для этого. А у нас там не приспособили транспорт. Артем постоянно сидел в квартире, всегда сидел в квартире.
And I would like to mention one thing that
Весна, лето, когда кроме лета, когда погода плохая, он был практически постоянное пребывание это дома. В квартире. Летом, время, когда, получается, я брал себе отпуск, и мы приезжали на дачу, и там все город, все было оборудовано, и место было пленки, чтобы возможно, там не стоял под перегором.
So I would like to mention one thing that even in this short time that we spent here, we've seen how people here in the community here supports people with special needs. So back home, Artem was pretty much a prisoner in his own apartment. So apart for the few months during the summer when Dima was coming home with his vacation and could take him outside somewhere in country home or somewhere outside the house, the rest of the time Artem spends within the 4 walls. So that was quite difficult. Here we've seen that that community and the city itself is adjusted. So even the sidewalks, the handicap entrances, they're suitable for the use by the wheelchair. And this is one of the biggest differences that we've noticed so far. So if you need to take a bus, there is no issue of getting on the bus. You need to go for a walk, there is no issue of getting from one sidewalk to another sidewalk.
Здесь мама говорит, что у нас было меньше развития инфраструктуры в доступности города. Здесь для него это больше, может, в магазине более транспорт заехать. У нас транспорт, и его было не так. И нужно было знать расписание, то есть там видеть, там может быть 1-2.
So back home, we had special buses suitable for the handicaps, but it was only 1 or 2 routes, and we had to know the schedule, and we had to be there on time to get on that bus to get where we need to go, even for the medical services. So here he has much more freedom, especially now that he has a self-propelled wheelchair. That he gets much better infrastructure here. That he has no problem even going to the store by himself.
So I'm always amazed at people who have gone through something like you guys have all gone through. And you seem so strong in your faith. And so if you could just share, if you want, how do you stay so strong in your faith despite seeing such evil and hellish things?
Меня всегда восхищает видеть, как люди, которые прошли через такое, как вы прошли, что остаются верными в своей вере. Могли бы рассказать, что вам помогает, что вам в этом помогает?
Только Бог. Больше, получается, уже я сам, когда сидел, думал, но когда они были далеко, я сам как бы тоже от них далеко. И уже как бы тоже чуть-чуть начал даже отчаиваться. Просто верил до конца Богу. И я до сих пор не могу поверить, что я здесь. Это просто.
There was a time when I was away from them, where they weren't able to leave the hometown, where I was getting to the brink of despair. But then I strongly believe I put my faith in God, and I believe that everything will work out just fine. And frankly, I still don't completely realize it's not clear to me. It didn't clear to me that I am here and I'm here together with my family.
Thank you. Does the pastor want to add anything to that question?
Если не хочешь что-то добавить
Ну,
со своей стороны.
скажи, 3 вещи, они всегда держали на плаву. Это Господь Бог,
Three things
братья и сестры во Христе.
that kept me going. There was a God, my family, and my brothers and sisters in Christ.
One of the things I observed when I came to visit Tatiana, Dima, and Artem, if I came in the morning, they were outside. Artem liked to be outside. And in contrast then to what he spoke in his testimony, the horror of being inside and unable to go outside is, I think, so you live in this. I just wanted you to be aware of that. I mean, it's just powerful hearing about it.
Это действительно стоит возможность выйти на улицу.
Для Артема это очень важно.
Absolutely, this is extremely difficult for Artem. This is extremely important for Artem to be able to get outside.
Now that he has his self-propelled, he's.
Это еще одно чудо за коляску. Ему одну коляску в Украину на рынок прислали. Но из-за того, она пока растамаживалась, началась война, и эта коляска просто горела в таможенной зоне, уже в Мариуполе, будучи, когда просто похудели.
Yes, so this is it's very nice to have a self-propelled chair. So he was supposed to get one in Ukraine, and one was shipped to him, and it was in a customs area when the customs area found an implant.
А потом, когда Роман, который знал об этом, он говорит, я все тебе, если ты уже в Гизе, я тебе ее просто отдаю.
So if you remember in the story, he mentioned his friend Roman from the state of Washington said that he actually bought that wheelchair for him, and since Artem got here, he actually shipped it to him.
Это Роман, это коляска.
Роман, да.
So that's the gift from Roman.
I'd like to shift, if I may, briefly. Bob, you did point out that I think that the congregation would like to express deep thanks both to Vladimir and to the family for being willing to be vulnerable and have this conversation in front of so many people. So thank you.
Хотел поблагодарить за перевод, а вас за то, что вы согласились выступить перед людьми, показать, говорят, показать человеческую слабость. Благодарны вам за
Спасибо вам. Спасибо.
Thank you.
And also note that our used wheelchair goes 7 miles an hour and lifts, so he has offered to change light bulbs. Fix the lamps. He's
Момент.
Нет.
Это бывает. В одном положении. Скажи, это бывает, но я сижу в одном положении.
So apparently it falls asleep if you don't use it.
You know, he doesn't have to show.
So if you need to change your light bulbs, you know.
Vladimir,
We never had a wheelchair like that.
very fancy. We're so glad that he has it. Would you please ask the family if they have any questions for us as a faith community or individuals, or even Vladimir to yourself too, this shouldn't just be one way.
Если у вас какие-то вопросы, которые вы хотели спросить.
Если благодарить. Благодарить Бога, Господа Иисуса Христа. И людей
But we don't have any
всех
questions. We
людей
just
поблагодарить.
glad
За вашу
that
любовь, за милость,
you offered
и вашу, и Божью милость,
Your love,
людскую милость.
your
Что
support.
спасибо Господу за такую церковь. Спасибо Ему,
Thank God
Иисусу
we have a
Христу.
church
Только
like
Он
that.
нам помогает в этой жизни. Он вправе нам дает жизнь, и вправе Он ее, как говорится, Он дает жизнь людям, и вправе только ее Он.
And we just like to say that we truly believe that God is the one who's controlling our life.
Спасибо вам от
God is
всей
the one who
души,
gives us life, the one who can take
от
it.
всего сердца.
And,
Спасибо, что нашлись
In the meantime, we're grateful that there are people
Божьи
like
люди
you,
и помогают идти
that there
нам
are God
дальше по
people who are
жизни.
helping us to move forward with this life.
Артемушка и так лежал в больнице после травмы. Целый год лежал на животе. Это такой труд тяжелый, пока его все раны зажили. Понимаете, у него была тяжелая травма. И столько он прошел операций, 8 операций прошел, чтобы выжить.
Artem spent nearly a year after his injury lying on his belly. He had 8 surgeries just to be able to survive.
Врачи не давали ему надежды,
Doctors
что
didn't
жизнь
give
он
him any
будет. Врачи
chances.
говорили, ему недолго прожить, но Господь дает ему жизнь и дает силы нам,
But the God gave him a
чтобы
chance,
помогать
gave him
Артемушке,
strength,
чтобы идти вперед.
and gave us strength to support him and to keep
Артемушка
him
болел,
forward.
сильно болел Артемчик, и учился. Он вот эту заканчивал семинарию, сильно болел. Я говорю, Артемчик, брось учебу, потому что тяжело с твоим здоровьем, тяжело тебе учиться. Артемчик все равно, мам, давай.
He was sick, he was unwell, but he never left his studies because he was determined to become a pastor and to finish, to graduate, and to keep moving forward with his education. And
Спасибо Господу за все, за милость, за любовь
so thank God
в
for
нашей семье.
everything
И
that we
спасибо
received.
вам, церковь.
Thanks to
Спасибо
church for your
огромное.
support.
Если б не вы, мы не знаем, как дальше
If
наша
not for your
судьба
help, we don't know
сложилась,
how
как
our
что
fate
было.
would turn out.
Chris, do you have a question?
I have a comment to read from one of our online
Oh, sure, great.
participants. This is from Carol Solberg. I probably should.
From somebody who's joining the meeting online.
This is from one of our online participants, Carol Solberg. She says, "Thank you so much to the family and especially to Artem for so clearly telling their heart-wrenching story of hardship and faith. If the story could be shared on the GDLC website, that would be very helpful."
Чтобы согласились рассказать свою откровенную историю.
Chris Artem was already given permission for that, so we'll make sure that happens.
Я спрашиваю, нашли ли разрешение, чтобы эту историю поставили в интернете? Yes, of course.
Vladimir, can you ask the family if there's such a thing as potluck in Ukraine?
Когда люди собираются вместе, приносят еду и
If I can say from my experience as well, no.
I figured with your long explanation.
I'm just explaining to them what it is. You know, we have several traditions in Ukraine that involves public gathering, public cooking, but not necessarily anything like a potluck.
Well, Vladimir, I don't know what your plans are, but you're certainly welcome to join us for lunch after second service, and that is also to all of you here in this room. And during that time, the family gave us pictures of their home and where they come from. That will kind of be a slideshow in the background. They showed me pictures of them fishing, and it's really helpful, I think, to get a context of where they're coming from. So please be aware of that. I don't know what time it is. It's time to go.
10:06.
Oh, okay. So we're gonna adjourn for now and scoot to worship, and then we can be for lunch. Let's